All right. Well, Bitcoin finally seeing some gains today after major losses last week. Is this a sign that a bounce back is on the horizon? Well, joining us now is Emily Parker. She is Senior Strategic Advisor at CoinCheck Group, Japan's leading crypto exchange. Emily, it's great to have you on. Obviously, you saw a huge drawdown in Bitcoin and other crypto assets. Has the flushing out happened here? Are we headed for a crypto winter, or are we dodging that bullet, I guess is the way I should put it?
I feel like if anybody with confidence answers that question, they are probably not telling the truth because nobody really knows where Bitcoin price is heading. But I think if we look at just some of the larger macro trends, there's reason to be cautiously optimistic. So yes, this has been a pretty bad crash. For those in the crypto world, we're kind of used to it, but this has been bad, but there are some trends that are cautiously optimistic for the long term. One of them is institutional investment. Now, this is obviously a double-edged sword because the institutions coming into crypto have helped bring up the price. They're also exacerbating the crash. We're seeing pullouts from ETFs, for example. But still, for example, the fact that Harvard has invested more in Bitcoin than it has in any other single stock, that's a pretty important data point. You have BlackRock, you have Fidelity. These are pretty big giants in the market. And the second is the big change in regulation, particularly in the United States. You know, you have SEC Chair Paul Atkins out there saying crypto's time has come. That is very much not what Gary Gensler was saying. So these are larger macro trends that I think bode relatively well for the future, even if we're in a crash right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's Bitcoin and then there's the other cryptocurrencies, and there's stable coins. And I guess it raises the question here, is the drawdown that we've seen more broadly across the asset class exactly that, just a broad drawdown, or is this actually a rotation out of Bitcoin into some of these other areas where you have more utilitarian uses?
That's a great question. I think it's too early to say that it's a drawdown out of Bitcoin into other asset classes, but you're asking the right question. For example, if you look at Ethereum, right? Ether has been crashing as well, but there are reasons, again, to be cautiously optimistic about Ether. One reason is that Ether is behind stablecoins. It's the network that most stablecoins run on. It's behind real-world assets. You know, real-world asset tokenization refers to basically tokenizing treasuries or gold or whatever, and a lot of that is built on ETH. So I think that's a relatively positive indicator that there is some utility to Ether that's not just speculation.
Emily, how are these big leveraged bets out there, say connected to Bitcoin, going to affect not just it, but the rest of crypto?
Yeah, I mean, there's too much leverage in crypto. I think it's really simple. I think most people would agree on that. And I think that's what we're feeling right now. I mean, a lot of this is kind of the lingering effect of all the liquidations that happened in October. Some of the leverage seems to be shaking out. But look, this industry has a problem with excess. This has been true from the very beginning. And we've been definitely seeing excessive leverage. And I don't think that's good. And if this shakes out some of that leverage, that's not a bad thing.
Is that why the downs lately for, say, Bitcoin are bigger than the major averages, but the ups aren't?
That's a good question also. I think to some degree, yes. I mean, I think where we're really seeing the leverage play out, for example, are in the whole digital asset treasury trend, which is like, for example, Strategy, Michael Saylor's operation. That's part of that. These are these companies that basically borrow money to buy Bitcoin. And that strategy is great when the price is just going up and up. But when the price is going down, yes, it definitely accelerates and exacerbates the pain for the average investor.
Emily, the fact that we've had such a tight correlation between Bitcoin and the NASDAQ 100, and even to a certain extent with the S&P 500, what does that signal from your vantage point?
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin is all over the place with this. Like, sometimes it's correlated, sometimes it's not correlated. So right now, you're right. We're seeing Bitcoin correlating more with risky assets like tech stocks, which again kind of undercuts this narrative of Bitcoin being a safe haven or a digital gold. But it's not always like that, right? So it's hard to say because it's definitely all over the place when it comes to correlation.